start the live stream with us. So let us begin at the top of the page. In technology and use of materials, the photala differs hardly at all from the ordinary Tibetan farmhouse. Not surprising, since the bulk of the workforce can only have recruited from the local peasantry. The structural technique is one of the heavy outer load-bearing masonry walls, in this case the roughly dressed stone mortared with mud, into which are set, thank you Tess, the beams turn wooden joists. Internally, the beams are supported by wooden columns via long brackets. The masonry on the outside gives way largely to timber on the inside. Much of the stone was transported from sites upstream to the northeast of Lashao on the backs of porters and the that wasn't it. Mud was largely dug from the immediate behind the site, leaving pits which were later converted into an ornamental lake. The inner and outer skins, you're welcome Tess. Love the pumpkin in your thing, by the way. The inner and outer skins of the walls are made of horizontal courses and stones, separated by thin layers of much smaller, flattish stones packed with mud to and from a level bed for the course above. Typical of Tibetan architecture is the inward slope or batter of 6 to 9 degrees from the vertical of the outer walls. The inward slope of the walls is visually counterbalanced by columns of timber frame windows. Silt-like in the lowest tier, in the widening out sometimes the balconies in the upper tiers. Their lintels are capped by projecting joist end and mud canopies. The flat roofs are bounded by parapets, vertical rather than battered, into whose outer face is set a stack of willow or tamarisk brushwood, ends outward and painted red. This is a fossilized version of stack or fuel still heaped around the roofs of Tibetan farmhouses. The walls are decorated by a wash of lime or red ochre. The rough texture of the outer structure, at close quarters, reinforces rustic feelings of the building. Internal woodwork and wall surfaces are heavy, with painted and carved decoration. The most important points within the complex are marked at the highest level by the small gilded roofs of Chinese type and gilded ornaments of Indian origin, almost certainly made by Chinese and Nepalese craftsmen respectively, and another departure from the farmhouse style. The Pelhor cord, or religious complex of the Gangxi, comprises of the side of rocky outcrop overlooking an important trade route leading from Bengal and Sikkim to central Tibet. The complex is surrounded by a wall with a fortress at its highest point, completed on earlier foundations by local prince Pakapa Penzakpo in 1365. Welcome Sabrina Han to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are looking at the great monuments of Tibet. Within this fortified enclosure were built the Tusakha, or main palace, and the Kuba Stupa. Oh, so let me type down the word craftsman. Welcome Haley to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. So craftsman, or a person who makes something. So a person who makes something out of a material like wood or jade using only hand tools. So a craftsman basically makes something, makes a product like a chair without the use of factory appliances and basically builds it from scratch. That's what a craftsman is and does. So when they're talking about a craftsman in these buildings, it's usually a person who puts together, who crafts, like, say, a wooden frame, or crafts the stones and puts them together without the use of any mechanical tools. The center of the Tushka Khan is a large assembly hall whose flat roof is supported by 48 wooden columns. It is entered by a porch and entrance hall to the south, opposite which is the main sanctum, which contains 3 large Buddha images and is surrounded by a circulation corridor. To the east and west are 2 further chapels, lending the whole plain the outline of a Buddhist mandala. A small upper story on the terrace roof has 5 chapels. Round a central gallery, the building is in typical central Tibetan style, with inward sloping outer masonry walls. You're welcome, Tess. Roughly finished and painted dark red, topped by a white-washed Friends and black bushwood pit. The 38-meter-high Kumban is by far the most impressive stupa in Tibet and ranks among the foremost in the world. Usually the 5-story base layout. Welcome Lith 6C4. Welcome Summer Green. Welcome Jason 1101. And welcome everyone else to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are going to move on to the next page. Right here. Nope, that wasn't it. Alright, gotta take 1 second. I'm just having a quick little... Oh, there it is. Alright, let's move forward. On a 20-cornered plane is hollowed out into a total of 68 chapels, accessible from the surrounding terraces, which a further 7 chapels inside the dome and spiral. the iconography of the images. Welcome, Chinese brother. I'm glad you could join us tonight. And wall paintings display an upward progression through the patron of the four classes of Buddhist tantras, as well as the important lineages of Tibetan Buddhism. Thus, the concepts of the stupa and the mandala, both with their elaborate symbolism, are integrated in a single structure in the way seldom achieved elsewhere. Tashahunpa Monastery outside Singase was founded in 1447 by the first Dalai Lama. Like other great Galupa monasteries, such as Labran, it has grown progressively to take the form of a loosely arranged row of major temples and mausoleum of the Panchen Lamas. Welcome, Benjamin in Shanghai. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are reading about the great monuments of Tibet. If anyone has been to the province autonomous region of Tibet, feel free to state your story in the comments below. Facing southeast over a river valley with their backs to the rocky outcrop, other monastic buildings and monks' housing is to the front. The whole area is surrounded by a defensive wall, which incorporates a massive blockhouse, hello Benjamin, usable at a last redoubt, and over whose southern face a huge textile, thangka, is draped during major festivals. The buildings are in the typical central Tibetan Galupa style. The temples mostly painted red and topped by gilded Chinese roofs. Other buildings are whitewashed. The mausolea of Panchen Lamas were destroyed in the 1960s, except for that of the fourth. But the 10th incumbent constructed a new one to house the relics of his 5 predecessors in the 1980s, and he himself entombed in a magnificent mausoleum built after his death in 1989. Welcome E49, I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are looking at the great monuments of Tibet. The next wonder afterward is the Grand Canal. Their design is paralleled by that of many temples. Tall buildings, they contain several stories of galleries surrounding a high central space, occupied in the case of the Jamahan Shemu by the world's largest gilded metal image of Maitreya, and in the case of the 10th Panchen Lama by a gigantic metal stupa. Flipping over to the next page, we begin the Grand Canal. Welcome Jenny Yang to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Actually, and welcome TWL to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us as well. We are on the 41st wonder of China out of the 70 wonders of China, the Grand Canal. I myself have probably heard about a lot of Tibet's beauty much prior to hearing about cities like Nanking 10 years ago or so. But never have I actually been to Tibet myself. So, Tess, if you have any stories about ancient Tibet, you can go ahead and post them in the comments below. Welcome back, Jenny Yang, to the live stream. I'm glad you could rejoin us. We will be moving forward to the Grand Canal, and we'll start with the quote at the top of the page.
At Lin Xing Chao, the yachts quilted the Yu Hu, which... Oh, shit. Yep, that's where it dies. Great. That's good. Alright, so while we're waiting, the phone basically disappeared, so I'm gonna go over here and just check on things on the side. Not sure what's going on with this, but we will move forward. Perhaps we can cut out some of these side screens. Let's cut out some of these here. Should speed up the quality of the live stream as we cut these out. Let's see. The phone is still dead. Phone is still kind of dead because we forgot to bring in the charger. That's what we get for not bringing the charger. Let me just advertise. I'm just gonna come back to that in a second. Come on. Oh, what? No, what's going on? What is going on with this funky YouTube? Shoot. This computer is just a little heated. Bottom, let's see if this helps. Probably will. Of course, this ship's gonna have to sail back there and blast this guy out of the town. Yeah, that's when he got re-recruited. Anyway. Stupid. Alright, so our phone is still out. Anyone who pops by the video will have to look at said live stream a little bit later. Let's see. So the video quality is of low quality, but at least it's still running. Now, let's go this way, and so right now I'm basically just looking at this supremacy stuff here. I don't think anyone's coming to the live stream for a little bit, but we basically lost ourselves there. And that's bad when it just shuts down in the middle because of low battery. Means that I basically lose customers. Good, he's building a navy. You need the navy right about now. So, let's see, we're just kind of strolling along here, looking at everything. And phone's still dead. Anyone who pops up in our live stream will basically do as they please. So, live stream's actually of really bad quality. Let's see what we can do. So, we're basically live, and I'm the only one watching, so... God damn it. Did everything go haywire? Just get rid of that. Stupid. Get rid of that. Let's just keep looking through everything here. Damn it. Hadn't even barely started the Grand Canal and it shuts down on me. Battery dies right there. That's bad. Shoot. Can't even take pictures of things because the battery's dead. But of course it is. Because you have to get through dead batteries. Let's see, what else do we got here? Anyone else on the live stream? No. No one on the live chat. Stream having some difficulties. Nope, it's still dead. That's why. I'm just gonna have to keep bombing this place out until there's nothing left here. Now, this sucks. It's taking way too long to recharge that thing. Anyone on the live stream? We will know shortly. I'm just kind of waiting around for a second. So what happens when you just let it die? It dies, and then you have to wait a good 10-20 minutes. Then you lose your audience because your phone's dead and people don't watch anymore. Yikes. Shit. Good, we're back online. Let's see. How is our stuff doing? That took way too long to come back online. Ah, come on. Stupid computer. There we go. Alright, this thing's a little better at the moment than it was. Let's skip this ad. Back to the live. Alright. Welcome back to the live stream. Sorry about that. My phone just died. But we're back and we can continue reading. Let's start with the quote at the top. Out Ling Xing Chao, the yacht's quilted with the Yihao, which is here joined by the Imperial or Grand Canal. The Enterprise, the greatest and most ancient of its kind, was found to extend an irregular line of about 500 miles, not only through the heights and over the valleys, but across the rivers and lakes. Though Lord McIntyre, the first British envoy to China, speaks of the Grand Canal in a singular and means the part of the canal running northwards from Hangzhou to Linqing on the Hebei-Shandong border, known in Chinese as the Da Yunhe, or Great Canal. It is only a part of the Great Canal system constructed in China from as early as the 5th century BC. Historical transport of heavy goods by water was 50 times more efficient than use by pack and horse, and since China's main rice-growing area was in the south, canals were needed to help transport grain northward in the imperial capital. It was not just for food and for storage in state granaries against times of hardship, but most of the revenue required for the running of the bureaucratic state was collected in the form of grain. The major river systems in China, those of the Yellow River and Yangtze, run from west to east. Thus, most of the canals run roughly south to north, linking river systems and lakes. The Grand Canal
was constructed partially on the basis of earlier shorter canal systems, such as that connecting the Yellow River with the Huang Valley and linking the old canal leading southward toward Yangzhou. Welcome Tracy1, welcome Eric A9F to the live stream. Glad you could join us tonight. We had a small technical difficulty in the middle of said live stream, but we are back online, and we are starting at the section called Construction. We are on the 41st wonder of China, the Grand Canal. Most of the early work, involving more than 5 million male and female laborers, was done during the short-lived Sui dynasty. It was economically imperative to link the capital at Luoyao with the fertile lowland Yangtze Delta, and also to be able to move troops about the country fast to establish control. The section of canal, almost 1,000 kilometers long, running from the Yellow River via the Wei River and reaching close to Tianjin, was one part of the Grand Canal. Welcome Jason 1101. Glad you could make it back. We had some technical difficulties in which the battery ran low on the camera, but we have it back. Gave it some CPR and we have our camera back. Wei River and close to the Tianjin was one part of the Grand Canal that was newly constructed in the Sui. Despite the efficiency of the transport system, conservative Confucian historians were critical of the cost of the canal building under the Sui. In the subsequent Tang Dynasty, welcome to the live stream, outgoing guy. You're outgoing and you're going to the Grand Canal today. I hope you enjoy. The link to the capital with the system. But it was during the Mongol period when China's capital was established in Beijing that the last great canal building effort took place. In 1293, Beijing was linked with Tongzhou some 80 kilometers away by a section of canal requiring some 20 lock gates, and the north part of the old canal was moved eastward. Welcome back E49. We had some technical difficulties, but we are now in the Grand Canal reading. In 1327, the Grand Canal had attracted its final length of about 2574 kilometers. There was still room for improvement, and a Ming engineer helped the flow of the canal at its highest point in 1411 by building dams and reservoirs to collect water and sludge gates to control its flow. Canal building involved channelizing parts of rivers, dredging and damming, all techniques that had been developed since the 7th century BC, in efforts to control the silt-laden Yellow River. But to enable ships to pass along a waterway that varied in height above sea level from 8 to 55 meters, it was necessary to construct various types of water gate and slipways. Sludge gates were first mentioned in Chinese literature in 36 BC, and flash lock gates were used at the same time. Many of the, though it was not until the 10th century that pound gates, which improved the speed of canal travel, were introduced. Many of the proud locks seem to have fallen into disuse during the Yuan dynasty, when a great volume of southern produce was sent north by sea and smaller vessels were used on the Grand Canal. These could more easily be hauled over weirs and upstream or winched up over slipways, as was depicted in many drawings made by members of Lord Macintyre's embassy to China in 1792 to 1794. So before we move forward, there are some pictures I would love to show you guys. This is the Grand Canal itself. Near Suzhou, over here, is in watercolor the Grand Canal, painted by William Alexander in the late 18th century. We also skipped the pictures of the Tibetan monuments. So, just on the prior page, at the top, we have the Kumbha Stupa, the biggest stupa in Tibet. Down here are pilgrims at the Tashu Humpo Monastery. Just to our middle here is the Gangxi City Fortress in Tibet. Let's see. Welcome back, outgoing guy. I'm glad you could join us again. And on the previous page of the Great Monuments of Tibet is the view of the Potala Palace in southwest in central Tibet, of which the main entrance road to the city is depicted right here. Now, to move forward to our next wonder, our 42nd wonder of China, the Buddhist cliff carvings at Daozu. Give me 1 second, and we will be there. So, if anyone's been on the Grand Canal, go ahead and state so in the comments below, and we will definitely go through and talk about it for a couple minutes, as I need to get this next section up on the dashboard here. So, let's start with the quote. Should you inquire about the meaning of the illusion-like manifestations, then it is similar to the wild flowers and luscious grasses growing together. Inscription beside the ox-herding carvings. Bang Dengsha Daozu. In Daozu sculpture, it is part of the landscape. In this remote mountain region of Sichuan, some 60,000 carvings have survived from the 9th to the 13th century, and in 1999 declared a World Heritage Site. Two major centers, Bengshang and Baodengshan, not only contain some of the world's finest sculptor work in China, but clearly demonstrate the extent to which the Buddhist doctrines have been assimilated into a system of popular Chinese beliefs. One second, and Dengsha is a typical mountain site with shrines carved apparently haphazardly along a 300-meter cliff face, often 7 meters high. The most spectacular shrine depicts the Western Paradise, a blessed land which believers who call on the Abhata Buddha with complete serenity could enter after death. Paradise is portrayed in Chinese terms with palaces, pagodas, and balconies. complete with officials, earthly beings, climbed the palace walls. Viewers pack the balconies, while musicians and spirit figures fly above. Smaller shrines, such as the Gongying of the Rosary, are portrayed with the delicacy of a painting. The jewel of Daju is, however, Bangongshe, a hairpin valley whose entire cliff sides were carved 500 meters long and 14 meters high. In the continuous period, under the guidance of the Tantarist monk Zhao Zhefeng, unique among Chinese shrines, there is no repetition. Carvings along the first part of the valley demonstrate modern Buddhist doctrines, including a wheel of life showing the process of attaining salvation. On the far side, educational scenes with explanatory inscriptions demonstrate traditional Buddhist and Confucian virtues and the horrified punishments awaiting sinners. Finally, the unfinished carvings of towering guardian figures record the abrupt ending of the project with the arrival of the Mongols. Welcome, Eldos, to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us for the last 9 minutes. We are on the Buddhist cliff carvings at Daoju. Little is known about Chinese sculptors. Their profession was regarded as a manual task outside the scope of official records. At Bangdangshang, however, we can see that men who created this valley were highly skilled craftsmen with knowledge ranging far beyond carving to the techniques of geology, architecture, and water control. The dominant theme in the site, Buddhist enlightenment, the gradual process of man's liberation from worldly ties, is expressed in the treatment of the stone. Along the upper regions, Buddhas are carved almost free from the cliff. Going to the next page. Beneath them, semi-divine figures are in high relief, but still visibly attached to the rock. At the lowest levels, human faces are firmly attached to their worldly background, often taking their form with natural contours of the rock. Every visitor ignorant of Buddhist doctrines can read and understand message. A scene depicting the three sages of the Huangyang school of Buddhism appears to defy gravity. Over 8 meters tall, leaning 20% forward from the cliff, each of the outer figures carries with outstretched arm a 2-meter tall pagoda, weighing 400 kilograms. By using architectural methods for making balconies, the sculptors have carved the weight of the overhanging section through the robes, thus creating a diagonal support down to the base. And for over 900 years, welcome Six Smith to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Diagonal support down to the base, and for over 900 years, these apparently unsupported figures have survived undamaged. Skills in water control are combined with brilliant ability to adapt nature for their purposes. A natural stream has inspired a possible archipelago episode where the young Buddha bathes, protected by 9 Chinese dragons. Welcome back, Tess, and welcome 6AC. Glad you could join us tonight and rejoin us at the Buddhist cliff carvings at Daoju. Contrasting illustrations of the way to enlightenment are carved in fundamentally different styles, thus emphasizing the difference in doctrine in the carefully designed Cave of Enlightenment, a subplant kneeling before three enthroned Buddhas, is dramatically illuminated by natural ... light. The cave is completely dry. Water from a road gutter flows into a fruit held by a monkey and passes through his body into the ground. In stark contrast, nearby illustrations of the parable liking the way to enlightenment to the taming of wild oxen are carved as integral parts of the cliff. The oxen and herders are part of the rock. Their background of streams, bamboos, and a flute player are all inspired by the natural formations. Finally, the carvings show that the sculptors were men with a certain independence. Illustrating a sin of breeding animals for food, they carved a plum, happy women tending pheasants with young peeping out from a basket. Unthinkable that she would be destined for hell. Anyway, so we have 4 minutes left of the live stream, and let's go through some of these pictures. Right here are the three sages that represent consummate skill of the sculptors who worked at Daozhu. Down below here is the guardian figures carved into one of the grottos, and one of the animals was broken off when the Mongols came over to this place. On the previous page, we see this very big picture of the Buddha entering Nirvana, and through his 9 stages. And just up here is the Wheel of Life, one of the thousands of complex Buddhist works sculpted into the cliffs at Daozhu. Welcome Fly Dreams, welcome 6AC. And I'm not sure why you're trying to set me up at the moment, Chinese brother. And welcome back Fly Dreams and 6AC. We are in the last 2 minutes. I'm going to have one more live stream later at 2 p.m. on a third cartography map, entirely from scratch, so you'll be able to see the process of map drawing. I will also have a live stream later in the evening in which I will basically jog around my community for about an hour and basically do general exercise. I will definitely be checking on the functionality of the live stream, as when I did the live stream last Saturday, about a third of it ended up being cut off from the rest of everything else when all was said and done. So, if anyone's been to the Grand Canal, the Buddhist cliff carvings at Daozhu, or the autonomous region of Tibet to look at the monuments, go ahead and